We've all heard of alpha and beta males. Alphas lead whilst betas follow. Both of these are archetypes for male personality types. They're descriptors for things that people want to become or what people want to avoid. But recently, people have become obsessed with the sigma male. So let's discuss what is the sigma male, how you can become one, and whether all of this is just a load of bullshit. People say that a sigma male is someone who can enjoy spending time alone, somebody who doesn't need other people in order to be fun and to be happy, but enjoys his own presence. People say that a sigma male is often the quietest in the room. Perhaps it's an introverted alpha, someone who stays quiet, especially when they're unsure about the topic being discussed, and they don't always feel the need to be the loudest in the room. People say that a sigma male is somebody who has their own style, has their own way of viewing the world, and an alpha male may be at the top of the hierarchy, but a sigma male is someone who avoids the hierarchy altogether. Famous sigma males include Steve Jobs, Da Vinci, Machiavelli, Sherlock, and Bruce Wayne. But things are not all as they seem. Picture this, it's 1947 and Robert Schenkel has been granted access by the University of Basel to pursue his lifelong passion and to see if the new psychology of behaviorism will allow us to understand why wolves behave the way that they do. And eventually, Robert came to understand the social dynamics of the wolves. He came to understand how the wolves would fight in order to establish who would lead, and how the strongest and the fittest wolf would win. He coined that wolf the alpha. And the implications of this research extended to wolves' not so distant ancestors, dogs. And because dogs are so similar to wolves, people assumed that the dogs must view their owners as part of their wolf, and any bad behavior of the dog could be explained by it thinking that it was the alpha of the pack. So dog trainers would recommend people to do the alpha roll, which is basically where you pin your dog down on its back and you dominate it so that you are the alpha and it respects you as the alpha. Things like shock collars would fly off of the shelves as people would buy it as they thought that was the way to train dogs. However, recent observations of wolf behavior shows that this isn't too favorable. And David Mech was actually one of the researchers who founded the alpha idea, so major props to him for changing his stance when new evidence came up. In 1947, the major flaw of Robert's research was that he was studying wolves in captivity, and these wolves came from multiple different packs, and this isn't behavior that often happens in the wild. David Mech said that this is very rare, or it almost never happens. And as for dogs, these dominance-based techniques have gone away in the science-based dog training community. Now they recognize that dogs are just fair animals that need very strict rules and need to be told what to do. And perhaps dogs don't view their owner as the alpha, but instead as their parents. But this concept of alpha and beta didn't go away with wolves. In fact, primatologists started to observe very similar behavior in gorillas, where gorillas would often fight until the death, and the winner of the fight would be given leadership over the group. That was the alpha. And this theory is still accepted by primatologists today. However, a primatologist named Frans de Waal made 3 interesting discoveries that no one seems to understand about alpha gorillas. Frans de Waal actually discovered that the alpha gorillas were the most empathetic. The alpha gorillas are the ones that would hug their babies and who would console the group. They were the most liked, not necessarily the strongest. However, they did get aggressive when they needed to get aggressive. But the most aggressive alpha males actually would live the shortest reign, and that's point 2. They discovered that the most aggressive alphas would very quickly be taken over or even killed by another alpha. Even if you're the strongest gorilla, they are no match for 3 other gorillas. That's why the most likable gorillas often won instead of the strongest. And the third discovery was that the alpha gorilla was actually the most stressed. Frans would call this the costs of power, and by constantly trying to push yourself to be the top of the social hierarchy, a ton of stress was taking place as you had to stay incredibly vigilant at all times. So the alpha gorilla wasn't always the strongest, it was the most empathetic and it was the most liked. But how does this link with sigma male? We've got to ask the all-important question: did humans always exist in an alpha-beta dynamic? And to answer this question, we can look at studies done on hunter-gatherer tribes. Was there an alpha or beta dynamic back then? Well, in the book Sapiens, Yuval Noah suggested that there wasn't ever one way that humans would live. Some tribes were dictated by a leader, others were led by families, and others were led by parents. Some were dictators and some were democracies. There's no one way that humans operate. And Yuval argues this is what makes humans so adaptable. We're pretty clever. We can inspect our thoughts and we can organize ourselves in unique ways that most other animals can't. So it's not certain that humans have an innate alpha and beta dynamic. The way most people view alphas is completely incorrect, and there's no basis in terms of scientific literature, at least from what I've found. However, of course, a social hierarchy does exist. Instead of calling it alpha and beta, we can call it high status and low status. But again, this status hierarchy is not as simple as most people make it out to be. Humans are complex animals, and there's not one overarching hierarchy that applies to everybody. If you're a Catholic, your social hierarchy is based on how pure you think people are. If you're a criminal, the social hierarchy is based on how many crimes people have done. Imagine you get on a plane. Immediately, the pilot becomes the person with high status. It's all context dependent, and there's not one overarching social hierarchy that rules everything. And sure, there are going to be some biological factors that change your status overall in multiple different hierarchies, but let's not overstate this. We used to think that people with incredibly yellow teeth were attractive because they had access to rich and good food. Now, the opposite is true. So, how do we define alpha, beta, and sigma, and should we try to climb this social hierarchy? Well, the thing is with status is it's a zero-sums game. In order for you to climb the status hierarchy, other people must drop in the status hierarchy. And if you focus on this too much, it makes you an angry and competitive person. If you're walking around the world and you're constantly labeling people as above you or below you, you're going to become incredibly insecure. You're either going to have to accept that you're below loads of people, or you're going to have to spend your time trying to get people to view you as higher status. And if you take that to the extreme, you'll have to pull an Alexander the Great, where he got so high up the hierarchy and he obsessed so much about becoming the great, he started to call himself God, because in his mind, if God was above him, that made him insecure. So if you take this to the extreme, you've either got to accept that you're a beta, or you've got to view yourself as God. Status is a zero-sums game. And if you're constantly focused on trying to become an alpha, become a sigma, to raise your ranking on this social hierarchy, that actually decreases your ranking on the social hierarchy. You're constantly obsessing about what other people think about you, and you're trying to become someone that you're not. And that just makes you look really insecure. So from what I've seen, the way that most people view alpha and beta dynamics don't exist. Yes, a social hierarchy does exist, and we've got to play it. It's a necessary evil, otherwise we're going to be rejected by humanity. We're not going to have friends, we're not going to get the job that we want. But by focusing on it too much, like so many people do, trying to become an alpha, trying to become a sigma, trying to raise your ranking in the social hierarchy, that can oftentimes do a lot more harm than good. Status is a zero-sums game. Instead, we should be playing positive-sum games. Instead of fighting for the last slice of pizza, we should be working together in order to make the pizza larger. On screen right now is a follow-up video that I think you'll enjoy if you enjoyed this video. And also, if you want to see more videos like this one to improve your life, click like and subscribe. That way the algorithm is going to know that you like these videos and it's going to show you more positive videos on your homepage. I'll see you in that video.